Welcome back. There may be a small ray of hope to lighten the country's struggle for power. The presidency today increased the threshold for generator licensing from 1 to 100 megawatts. This will allow private independent companies to produce electricity for themselves and others to use, lessening the burden on the national grid significantly. Let's get reaction. I'm joined by Hilton Trollip, an energy expert from the University of Cape Town's Energy Research Centre. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. So I just spoke to Eskom, and they reckon it'll take 2 to 3 years before we enjoy the benefits of this move.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe well, it also depends on how quickly NERSA and the Department of Minerals, Resources and Energy actually put the President's announcement into action. It's a great announcement. It really will help a lot with electricity supply in the country, because there's some 5,000 megawatts, a recent survey showed, out there, with the private sector just wanting to come on. And until now, the limit was 1 megawatt, so it's now 100 times bigger. It's a big station, 100 megawatt one. But I'm really worried that there have been presidential announcements before, and I don't want to be a negative about this. I want to be positive about it. But we now have to see quick action from NERSA and the Department of Energy. And in the past, that's where the delay has been. So I wouldn't be worried about, once they actually put all the regulations in place, announce this in the Government Gazette, put the capacity in place at the DMRE and NERSA to at least register these, because they have to be registered, and hopefully there are no pitfalls there, because there have been in the past. And then we really, there's going to be far less load shedding because of this.
Yeah,
it can't solve the load shedding problem.
Yeah, definitely, but it'll ease the burden on the national grid, right? So talk to me about what 100 megawatts can actually power.
Okay, so one of these really big power stations, like Kusile or whatever, I'm always careful with big numbers, on air, because it can get very complicated. You say, what can it power? It could power a really big factory, for example. It could power many shopping malls. If you've seen those PV, the sort of solar photovoltaic panels on the top of some of the shopping malls in South Africa, those are only about 1 or 2 megawatts, 1 megawatt. So it's 100 of those. So yeah, let's call it 100 megawatts is 50 big shopping malls or a big factory. And the other thing about it is it's much less expensive than the supply from Eskom at the moment. So not only does it provide reliable power during the day, and batteries can be used at night, and they're getting cheaper and cheaper, but it's also a much lower cost. And so this can make our industry competitive again, because we're having big problems with the competitiveness of industry, not just because of load shedding, but also because of the prices have gone up more than 5 times in the past 10 years.
And of course, more competitiveness means that it could filter down to residents at some point. I'm not saying now in the next 3 years, but maybe in 5 years, being able to afford to do the same for their households.
Well, it's already becoming viable for households that use quite a lot of electricity. And the other benefits, Shahan, are if the Department of Trade and Industry and also can get its act together with the Department of Energy and provide some kind of policy stability around this, we can manufacture much of these renewable energy systems in South Africa. But we need sustained demand for them. We don't need chopping and changing from government. And then there's a huge potential for jobs, making the components for wind turbines, making the components for solar photovoltaic systems. So that's where the real jobs are in this. And of course, there's the much less pollution from the renewable energy independent power producers that would be brought online.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and your insight. Appreciate it. That was Hilton Trollip, energy expert from UCT's Energy Research Centre. Let's get more reaction now. Tommy Garner, chairman of the South African Independent Power Producers Association, joins me for more from Johannesburg. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. So IPPs, something we've heard about for the past couple of years. It seems that it's going to be easier now for people to produce their own power, in particular companies. You must be happy with this move.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is a step in the right direction. It is great leadership shown by the President, Mr. Ramaphosa, and it is a first step in liberating the market so that private players can really become suppliers in this market. It will support Eskom's unbundling and the independent transmission system operator. And it will ensure that we can now swiftly move ahead to eradicate load shedding over time and to support Eskom generation in giving them time and space to maintain their plant. Swiftly,
you say, but are you not afraid of any red tape going forward, given how our government works?
Listen, red tape is part of, and bureaucracy is part of a regulated environment. Unfortunately, it has strung South Africa in a way where we can't grow our economy. We've seen the President saying today that there's a real challenge in terms of job creation. Unemployment is becoming a massive challenge. Youth unemployment standing at 74%. People are going hungry. And there's a challenge of economic growth. And we need electricity to start growing the economy and start creating the jobs. So there will be bureaucracy, there will be red tape, but I think this is the first step in breaking the dam wall. And there will be a flood of power plants being built over the next few years. Our research says that in the next 6 months, there's not much coming online. In the 1 year window, we're talking around 600 megawatts that could come online if we take the 100 megawatt size as a cap, and we just need to get going in doing that. There will be challenges, but as South Africans, I know we can take hands and we can move forward.
Yeah. So I was speaking to Eskom earlier, and they reckon it's going to take companies around 2 to 3 years to actually get to a point where they are producing electricity for themselves. Is it going to take that long? And if so, why?
I think if you talk in general, yes, probably, because if you have to do it, if you decided that you only want to start doing your feasibility study when there's certainty in the market, which has been part of what we've seen today, then you need to start measuring resource. You need to do EIA studies, specialist studies, birds and bats, and all of those things. You need to measure your wind resource if you go for a wind plant. That typically takes a year. So then you can start building, let's say, more or less after 2 years, and it's going to take you a year to build it, so 3 years if you build a wind plant. If you build a smaller solar plant, typically 6 to 12 months construction, depending on the size. There will be some of those solar plants that's already permitted, meaning they got environmental records of decision. They probably have cost estimate letters from Eskom around grid connection. Maybe some of them will have budget quotes already. So if you've got a fully permitted plant and you can pull the trigger now to go into a financial close process where you finalize the funding, I would say 8 months to 14 months before we'll see first power on small plants. But as I explained, the larger plants, probably 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. And of course, the interest in this must be pretty wide from especially those bigger companies that rely on electricity supply from Eskom that shut down and lose business. What are you hearing after the President's announcement? How optimistic are local businesses in that regard?
I think, there's extreme optimism. I've seen today on WhatsApp and on the internet. There's really a lot of champagne bottles popping, and I think it's not so much just because of the opportunity that business gets to invest again, but it's really to pull South Africa out of the mud and where we are in terms of inability to supply ourselves with power, and that is the basis of our economic growth.
Yeah, you can send me some of that champagne. I'll gladly drink along with you. Appreciate your time. That was Tommy Garner, Chairman of the South African Independent Power Producers Association.